Hi, welcome to the National Quiz Choice online news site Hyatt. I'm Robin Stienberg and welcome to our show again. Today we're going to have two producers here who have actually authored a book called The Grandma's Garden and Other Stories, as well as the Before We Forget film, which will be released here in Singapore tomorrow. And we're going to find out what is the cause behind dementia. And dementia is one of the biggest problems here in Singapore and also around the world. These two gentlemen, Mr. Jeremy Boo himself right here and Mr. Lee Zhengzi, will be telling us the importance of their cause and why they have make so much effort in establishing this journey. Mr. Lee, thank you for joining us for this show here at the National Quiz Choice. Tell us about your journey and why do you choose to pursue this cause?
Well, we have always been interested in neurological issues, and dementia happens to be the biggest neurological issues of our age. More than 20,000 Singaporeans have dementia, and it will increase dramatically over the next few years. So previously, when cancer was a problem to everyone, and everyone's worried about cancer, now it's dementia, because it's something that we have no cure for, and many dementias do not have a cause discovered yet. So we wanted to reduce the stigma of dementia in Singapore, and by collecting stories from people, we collected over 50 stories in our website, and 32 of them will be in the book. We collected these stories to make people realize that dementia is not such a scary thing.
And how about yourself, Mr. Boo?
I think this journey has a very personal. This journey is extremely personal to me. The reason why we are particularly interested in neurological disorders is because my mother suffers from one herself. She suffers from Lou Gehrig's disease, which is not dementia, but something that affects her body. Command sent by her brain to her body gets corrupted over time. So her movements gets limited, and it's now over time she will have difficulty moving herself. But along with her illness, I've seen how society still carries a stigma in this age and time towards neurological disorders. Even though my mom still preserves her sanity, even though my mom still has a very sharp mind, people assume that she is incapable of thinking. Even though she is not able to talk, she's still able to communicate her thoughts through other means. But people assume that she's incapable of thought, and this is just one of the many misconceptions that people have of.
Now, for Mr. Lee, what is dementia to you, and do you think that mankind has a chance to find a cure for dementia?
Well, I think it's very difficult to find a cure for any neurological issues, including dementia, because it's in the brain, and we do not fully understand the brain. It's really hard to get to the root of things. But instead of curing dementia, what we can do for now is to talk about it so that everybody fears it less. And once you fear it less, you're able to cope with it better. So if your parent has dementia, instead of thinking of just a cure, we think of how can we make their lives better for now. So they can have a more comfortable life in the next few years rather than just trying to find a cure.
The difficulty of finding a cure is because dementia has many causes. You have Alzheimer's disease, you have frontotemporal dementia, etc. All these have various causes. Sometimes they're caused by other diseases, let's say maybe Parkinson's disease. Even mad cow disease can cause a very, very rapid form of dementia. So in order to cure dementia as a syndrome, you need to first find a cure to this entire list of diseases.
Now, you guys have devoted yourself in creating this documentary and this book. And for folks, please do try and catch hold of this book, The Grandma's Garden and Other Stories, written by Jeremy Boo, and 30 other stories written by different individuals about their experience in dementia. And how do you guys actually fund this project? What are the challenges that you face? And do you think that people actually have this problem in sharing their stories about dementia? start with the movie?
We got funding, we got some seed funding from the Lian Foundation, which focuses on palliative care, and they are behind the Life Before Death project, and they are encouraging people to talk about their life before death. So by talking about death, we hope that people can realize how important life is. And dementia, previously we had nobody sharing stories openly. Sure, there are people sharing stories as Mr. X or with pseudonyms, but never with their full names. So before we decided with the Lian Foundation that we wanted real names, full names for every story. So in the website and on the book, every story is accompanied by a full name.
And then afterwards, London, Singapore funded the production of the book. I think one thing that really took us by surprise was when we started research for Before We Forget. We struggled to even find one documentary that featured the full face and names of people with dementia. Asian. I mean, we can find lots of these resources in the Western media, but not one in Asia. Books as well, it's always Mr. X or Mrs. X or daughter of patient with dementia. Why is it not? What is so shameful with dementia? By hiding our names, by hiding the patient, people with dementia, the names of people with dementia, the identities of people with dementia, we are actually reinforcing the stigma of dementia. We are telling society that yes, dementia is something to be ashamed about. Let's keep it behind closed doors. Let me hide behind this pseudonym. So with this project, one thing that the biggest objective of this project is to really unveil dementia, to provide an Asian face to dementia, so that people in Asia would have less to fear about dementia.
And why is dementia to you?
Well,
personally,
to me, at first it wasn't very much of a it wasn't really close. I wasn't really close to it, but because we spent so much time with the people in the documentary, we had two women, one Joyce Fernandez, Celine Fernandez, both of them, and Dr. Irene Wong. There are two different families. We spent hours and hours with them. So Joyce and Celine were in the hospital for a few months because Celine was hospitalized, and we followed them for the whole day. And then I got closer to them. Now when you mention dementia, it means to me, it just reminds me of people who are close to me, the people in the film, and it's sad, but at the same time there are fleeting moments of joy that makes it very worthwhile.
Yeah, how about you yourself, Mr. Bruce? Why is dementia?
I think, to a lot of people, dementia is probably the worst thing a person can get. But to me, sometimes, when I look at people with dementia, I see them living in this sphere of contentment. They actually live in this. They exist in this very contented state because the ones who can, the more fortunate ones, I would say, do not remember their past grievances, their past emotional burdens, and unresolved issues. So many people with dementia, in fact, have gotten calmer and more contented after they get dementia. Of course, sometimes they need medication to regulate their moods, their depression, but overall, I would say that dementia might not necessarily be the worst thing to get. It is in fact a reminder of our mortality.
It's amazing. And Mr. Lee, tell us, what is the defining moment that caused you to leave this cause on the subject issue of dementia? Was it through a family experience? Was it because you saw someone die from dementia? Or was it because some spiritual, enlightenment?
I wouldn't say that. I think there wasn't one moment that made me want to do this. But as you start filming people, because we stayed.
No, I think what I'm talking about is before that.
Before that.
Before you started this project, what inspired you to pursue it?
I've always wanted to tell people stories because I think stories can help improve the lives of people. So I have done stories in Cambodia, in the Philippines with him about poverty, about arsenic poisoning in water, but I've never done something in Singapore. So I wanted to do something for our own country, about our country, and this happened to be something that I could do. So it's just basically I love telling stories about people, and sometimes when you tell stories about people, others continue the story, and we then spark the conversation on society.
And how about yourself, Mr. Wu?
I would say that similarly, we share this desire to start conversations in society. But of course, I do have a personal reason, being that of my own mother, suffering. She has a neurological disorder herself. I believe that the combination of these two desires made me devote myself to this project.
Why do you call this project Before We Forget? Why?
Because I like this title Before We Forget because it is both applicable to the person with dementia and the people caring for them, as well as the larger society as a whole. As in the sense that we always think that people with dementia forget, but in reality, society too always forget about them. In fact, their caregivers sometimes forget about them. Choosing to focus on other humans in life. So we want to start this movement to remind people that these people exist, not as diseases, not as statistics, but as people, as people with identities, people with memories, people with accomplishments. So this is why we call this project Before We Forget.
Oh, amazing. Now, what kind of problems do you see today here in Singapore and in the society in Southeast Asia on the subject matter of dementia? Can people realize, or do they realize how serious dementia is, and what kind of long-term issues do you see, in your own experience so far?
I think.
Sorry, we'll start with Mr. Lee.
I think worldwide people are slowly beginning to understand what dementia is. More in the West, but in Asia it's a really new thing because populations are just starting to age here. So in Singapore, we have the health promotion board starting campaigns telling people what the 10 warning signs of dementia so they can go for earlier screening. But there's still a lack of conversation about dementia.
Really?
People are still not talking about it openly.
Is it because it's taboo?
Yes, we actually we found two families to film the documentary. But actually we searched for 20 over families before we found this two.
And how young can a person acquire dementia?
But normally the median age for Alzheimer's and cluster dementia is 60s to 80s. But there's a form of dementia called what do you call it?
Early onset dementia.
Early onset dementia. They can happen when you're in your 40s.
Oh, wow.
But that's
a rarity.
Rarity. But it can happen.
Yes, it can happen.
But the biggest misconception about dementia is that dementia is a natural consequence of aging, which is not. It's
caused by various.
It's caused by various diseases. It's not a natural progression of age. But because people think it's a natural progression of age, they don't seek medical treatment. They don't bother to. I wouldn't say they don't bother, but again, with stigma, why would I want to find out something? Why would I want to find out more about something that could cause society to ostracize me and my family? So people just choose to remember it as, to choose to acknowledge it as part of aging and not seek knowledge or information about.
Amazing. Folks, please do get hold of this book, The Grandma's Garden and Other Stories, and also the latest film that's coming out, Before We Forget, by Jeremy Vu and Mr. Lee. What lessons learned both of you have learned from this experience? I'd like to get from Mr. Lee and yourself, if you could give 3 defining moments from this project, the lessons you've learned, and probably what society can do about this.
I realized for myself when we were filming last year, Celine Fernandez, one of the main subjects in the film, she almost died because of health complications. And that was when I realized that when we do something, we do not know who we are losing or what we are losing until we are about to lose the person. So instead of waiting till the last moment, I think I have learned to appreciate my parents more and think of them and talk to them more often. The other thing I learned was that it's really important to say things like I love you or to express yourself verbally, as well as really hold hands with people like my grandma. Because in Asia we tend not to go very close to people. do not hold their hands, we do not.
More reserved.
Yeah, we are more reserved. So one thing I learned was people with dementia or anybody with maybe it's better for you to express what you really want. And the third thing is patience actually. Because in the hospital we had to wait for days and days. And we had 100 hours of footage for the documentary. But the documentary is just 54 minutes long. So it was a lot of filming, a lot of
censorship.
I think I share a lot of the lessons that Sensei have brought up. I just like that one more thing is that I really learned the importance of spending time with people. Because as a media student and as a media practitioner, we are always incredibly busy. We're always moving from one project to another. So sometimes I have very little time with my own family and friends. But while doing this project, you realize that sometimes you just need to spend time with somebody. Never mind if there's nothing to talk about. Never mind if the person is unable to speak or unable to respond to you. But just by being there, your presence will comfort and reassure the people around you.
Yeah, one thing I realize is people with dementia, they may not remember things that happened recently in a short-term memory, but they can always feel you. They can feel.
They can feel your emotions in that sense. For example, if you're there, and if they feel a sense of security, they feel a sense of love and comfort, it is unlikely they will throw a tantrum or they will become hysterical, like what movies and television shows always portray them to be. They usually become hysterical or become violent or they become irrational when they are just overwhelmed by negative emotions and they don't know how to deal with it. So their hysterics, their violence, their irrational behavior is just a manifestation of these emotions they cannot otherwise express. But just by being with them, by being with them, by hugging them, by reassuring them, in many ways, dementia actually reflects the reversal of age. When a person has end-stage dementia, the person will exhibit many reflexes that are seen in infants. For example, if you reach out a finger to an infant, the infant will grasp your finger. So will a person with end-stage dementia. So if we actually treat a person with dementia with as much love, as much comfort, as much patience as we would treat an infant, this person with dementia would actually be comforted, be soothed, like an infant.
Well, amazing. Thank you for your thoughts and the takeaways from lessons learned. And folks, thank you for watching the National Quiz Choice online news at Hyatt. And